Are you curious how Justin Trudeau bought the Canadian media? If you are, let me tell you a story. Now, last week, I published a video discussing some Canadian legislature called the Alberta Sovereignty Act. Now, this is part of a coalition that is forming in the middle of Canada between three provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. They are all putting legislation forward with the intention of seeking safe harbor from our federal leadership. Now, as soon as this bill, the Alberta Sovereignty Act, was proposed, the Canadian media just put forward an onslaught of content telling all of us Canadians that nobody wanted this bill. And if it passed, inevitably, it would divide the country and impoverish Albertans. And maybe 4 days later, this bill was passed. Turns out some people did want it. Now the battle begins, right? Now the battle between the federal government and the provinces will occur, and it's going to happen in the media industry. Now, I am not so sure why I am extra keen to watch this battle unfold, and I know that partially it's because, honestly, I believe it's a little bit doomed. And I hope not. I think that the Premier of Alberta, Danielle Smith, is the first powerful political voice in Canada to oppose Justin Trudeau publicly. And this is very important for one reason, just the necessity of opposition. Love or hate her arguments. Any student of history can appreciate the importance of balanced debate and the danger of any authority left unchecked. Now, in this legislature, the federal government is the villain, and we can expect them to respond accordingly. Now, the efficacy of this bill will be discussed in Parliament, but the battle is going to happen in the media. This is the most effective tool the government has for swaying public interest. And let me tell you just how effective. Since 2019, the Liberal government has handed out $715 million in subsidies to the media industry since 2019. Now, this began with the $50 million local journalism initiative. It was followed by the $595 million salary subsidy, commonly referred to as the newspaper bailout. Then the $60 million emergency support fund, and most recently, the $10 million special measures for journalism top-up for 2021 and 2022. Now, eligible recipients of these subsidies had to meet predetermined criteria. The money was not handed out evenly. Two of these criteria are worth noting. Number one, eligible organizations must be organized as a corporation, a partnership, as a trust, meaning no sole proprietorships. And number two, the organization must cover matters of general interest, but not primarily focused on any particular topic, meaning no industry-specific platforms. So if you take these two bullet points and apply them to the corporate structures and mission statements of businesses, you have an immediate disqualification of any boutique, special focus, or independent journalism businesses. So therefore, instead of building up the next generation of writers and startup media businesses, who are probably the ones that are going to save the media industry, we're going to float the stumbling dinosaurs who are taking it down. Now, close to $600 million of this money was allegedly geared to help news companies navigate the digital transformation of the industry. Now, this argument might have made sense if the year was 2005, maybe, but 2019, still trying to figure out the digital transformation of the industry. If they haven't got this right by 2019, then why on earth are we saving them? Just to reward blatant and gross incompetence? No, I've actually interviewed two hyper-successful media titans who successfully navigated this transition. One of them was Lord Conrad Black, who through the 1980s and 90s built a $3 billion valuation newspaper enterprise, and he subsequently sold his interest in that business a small handful of years before the precipitous decline in print advertising. He saw it coming and got out of the business. But the second was Steve Forbes, who spotted the transition early and pivoted the Forbes enterprise, which is a 105-year-old business, by the way, founded in 1917. And he quintupled the value of his business by leveraging the free international distribution that digitization offered. So many entrepreneurs got this right. And then to reach back and drag along those who slept on the innovative opportunities that their industry was handed at the cost of the Canadian taxpayer, and then attribute those welfare dollars to the political party in office, is an obscene blend of power and nefarious incompetence. Now, what's the result that we can expect from this? We can expect a journalism industry that accepts money from the individuals they are supposed to report on. Now, that is the definition of a conflict of interest. So the customer is no longer always right. The Liberal Party donors are. The advertisers are going to come second, while the lowly readers are going to sit last on the hierarchy of needs. Now, this is not me pointing to some convoluted deep state conspiracy. This is just the basics of an incentive structure. At the end of the day, few of us are strong enough to do the right thing at the cost of our livelihood. And when you're handed $600 million, that's pretty influential. So what can we expect in the future here? Immediately after this Sovereignty Act was passed, CBC, the Canadian broadcast company, hosted a spirited debate, allegedly, covering the ins and outs of this bill. And they spent an hour dissecting the motivations behind the act with 4 panelists. The only problem was they forgot to invite anybody from Alberta to join the conversation. So instead, the audience got to hear from British Columbia and Ontario about the implications of Albertan legislature. The next day, Global News put out their version, but instead of speaking to anybody from the Albertan Conservative Party that assembled this bill, they went straight to their opposition and opened the article with the following bias-heavy paragraph. Alberta's opposition NDP says the first sitting under Premier Danielle Smith was a short, chaotic mess with the passage of a Sovereignty Act that dooms the province to confusion over who follows which laws. Now, what side of the aisle are they sitting on here? Now, I expect much more of this to come in the future. The Canadian media industry is no longer a place to go if you wish to learn about an issue and form your own opinion. It is the perfect place to go if you want your opinion formed for you. Tell me I'm wrong.
We actually need to have a damn good recession.
The Russian economy is a gas station run by the mafia.
$41 trillion has been created out of nothing.
There's a stranglehold in China on most of these resources.
The outlook and fundamentals for the metals remains very, very strong.